Nearly 200,000 people with developmental disabilities in New York State live with an aging parent or caregiver. The common worry is what happens to the adult child after these caregivers pass away. So advocates and leaders of NYSARC lobbied at the state capitol today, calling on the state to provide more funding for services like out-of-home residential care, and it's in need of very critical support. So joining me now to talk more about this, we have Laura Kennedy, President, and Steven Kroll, Executive Director of this organization. Thank you so much for being with me. I do appreciate it. Okay, so we should say, first of all, that these programs do exist, correct? Right? So you're not saying they're not in danger of shutting down. The problem is that there is a higher and increasing demand for them. Is that right?
We have programs in place, but we have a great demand to accommodate more people in our residential programs and in our day programs.
And these residential and day programs, I mean, residential, they're exactly what they sound like. Residential means that would be where a person would go to live when they have no place to, they can't live at home anymore because their caregiver is no longer capable of caring for them?
Well, we have residential opportunities that are across the state in a variety of settings: apartments, small group homes, supports at home when families need it. But we had, 40 years ago, institutions.
Right.
We had the inability to have people with developmental disabilities go to school. And when NYSARC and other families sued New York State, we changed the system. And New York, working collaboratively with our governor and with our legislators, created supports and services using voluntary agencies to provide community living throughout every county in the state.
So what's the status of the system right now?
Well, today NYSARC supports about 60,000 individuals, which is about 1/3 of the population of people with developmental disabilities in New York State. The challenge we face in this budget is we estimate there are about 6,000 people who have been living at home with their families in a lovely and supportive environment throughout their whole lives, but who now have caregivers, whether it be a parent or a sibling, that are aging and facing their own health care crisis, their own mortality, and these people need placement in the right services so that when their caregivers are gone, they can continue living a happy, productive, and rewarding life. And the number of people waiting continues to grow as the number of placements drops.
Okay, so two questions. First of all, how do you get to that number? How do you get to the estimate?
We've been working with our 48 operating chapters, which operate somewhere between around 1,500 residential settings around the state. We have 103,000 members, and working with them to come up with an estimate. There was a time that the state had a waiting list, and that waiting list had thousands of names on it. The state does not currently have that waiting list. And so we've gone on talking with our members to try and figure out how many people are in need of services. I know the commissioner of OPWDD sees this as an important priority and is working on her own to try and, with the agency, to try and get a handle on who needs services now so that we can find a way to place them.
So there's no waiting list, or the state doesn't maintain the waiting list? There are people who need the services who can't find them, but the state's not maintaining a waiting list of those for those services?
We're not sure of what information the state has available at this point in time.
Understood. What is the financial situation? In other words, how much more do you need?
We're asking for $30 million of state dollars, which will be matched by federal dollars, to support our initiative to accommodate the over 6,000 individuals who need housing at this time.
And
as a beginning.
That would go towards new placements? In other words, it would go towards construction?
Yes, it would accommodate approximately 3,500 people.
And for how long?
For a lifetime.
Oh, it would?
Yes.
Okay. So you're not looking for $30 million and then every other year thereafter you're going to need that same amount?
Well, there would be operating funds that would be tied into those individuals.
Got it.
Right. Once a person becomes part of a home, they're going to be part of that budget. There are different groups of people that need placements. It's not only the people that we're talking about. It's people that are currently living in institutions that need to be coming out. There are children that may be in a program for children that are aging into an adult program. There are people coming in from out of state. So the state has to place people with multiple priorities. Right now, what we're advocating for is those families that have been waiting for placement for 10, 12, 14 years. We had 3 mothers with us today who talked about their families. Each one of them has been waiting for most of their children's lives, and now their children in their 30s They were told, get your name into the system when your child is small, so when you need them to find a home when you're old. They're starting to give up hope because they're in their 60s, and some of them are even older, trying to find a placement for their now adult child.
So I don't think you all have, you brought a number of people in. You just mentioned some of these families. I don't think we can overstate the stress that people feel.
Absolutely.
When they are afraid that they may pass away and they don't have a plan. Right. For somebody who can't care for themselves. You have some personal experience with this.
I do. My daughter is in a residential setting on Staten Island, and she was accommodated during a time when the state had the ability, OPWDD, to work with families and plan in a sensitive, timely manner. Mm-hmm. That happened on a regular basis. We did have crisis situations 10 years ago that if a parent passed away and they found that the loved one was home alone, they would be able to accommodate this, find a voluntary provider and get a group home. That has trickled down to nothing in the last 7 or 8 years. And so we have had these 6,000 families across the state come to us with a panic, and they're afraid.
When these people come to you and they're saying, well, I'm terrified that something might happen to me, and then subsequently my child or whoever else they're providing this care for, what will happen to that person? Will they become a ward of the state? What's the alternative if there's no place to put them?
I think the best alternative is for the family to plan and know before they pass away, or their sibling knows, that they have a life in the community. And all of these people live in neighborhoods, towns, villages across every county in New York State. We all have a neighbor or a friend or a loved one, and people need to know that there is a crisis right now where 6 or 7 years ago this was manageable. They could be in a nursing home or in something that the parent really didn't help in planning.
Steve?
Yeah, one of the parents that was in today talked about her situation. Her daughter needs 24-hour care, and it's provided by her and her husband. Her and her husband both are having medical issues that restricts their ability to do some of the things you need to do for that 24-hour care. They want to know that their daughter is someplace where she can be with other people and form a new family, in essence, in addition, so that when she and her husband can go and visit and be part of her daughter's life, but that care is being provided. And then someday when they're not there anymore, know that the daughter is cared for by in a loving household with peers and with a team of people to care for them. Right now the fear is that if we don't find a home and then we get so disabled that we can't take care of a child, or God forbid we pass, we just don't know what happens. How can we rest in peace or plan our final affairs if we just don't know what's going to happen to our child?
Right. At this point, the focus is the governor has put forward his 30-day budget amendment, so his part is done, with the exception of the fact that he's negotiating with the legislature. So the focus is mostly on the legislature and trying to influence them into putting additional money into their asks for the budget. What's the reception that you're getting from lawmakers when you're speaking to them?
Well, today we had a press conference, and we had Senator Ort and Assemblywoman Gunther, and they both chair the mental hygiene committees in both houses, and they came and both spoke with such support, and not just support but passion in what they believe in and why they are chairs of those committees. They understand our issues clearly, and I think they'll be shouting our praises and our needs today and for the next 30 days. And Steve, you've been meeting with several committees.
And you know, the families of NYSARC have a history of reformers. So Laura talks about as a child walking around in the community where Willowbrook was. The families that founded this organization because they wanted to replace the system for care of developmentally disabled that was present in New York State, that was inhumane. So they've spent many years as reformers, and so we're reformers still today. And the governor has his transformational agenda on care for people with developmental disabilities. We're actively engaged in working with his team, with the OPWDD, to try and find solutions to these problems.
Well, it's not lost on me that the governor's father shut down Willowbrook. So there is sort of an arc here that could come full circle, perhaps.
Well, we would be grateful if the legislature and the governor in the next couple weeks, as they work on this budget, come up with some of the solutions to this and put them in place. We want to work with them for the long term to cure the problems in the system, but we also would like to see if we can help the people that need help now. Those that are facing mortality in 2015, 2016, have the peace of mind to know that their loved ones are going to be receiving the right kind of support.
Well, unfortunately, we're out of time. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Laura, but I want to thank you for coming in, Steve. Thank you, and we will keep tabs on this one as well as the budget process continues.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.